Hello, Paulo Leite here, record collector. Today I am in Berlin, Germany, and I'm going to be exploring Power Park Recordstore. Let's go inside and see what they've got. Yes, it's all about vinyl, and as I'm about to show you, they have quite a collection. This is the first room. And right over there, another room with more vinyl. Okay, let's start by exploring their 60s and 70s rock and pop section. You know you're in Germany when everything is meticulously classified and organized. Asylum by Cressida from 1971. What a great find! They only existed briefly between 1968 and 1970. They were quite unique. Lucky Leaf and Long Ships by Robert Calvert from 1975, a deeply experimental album. The Confessions of Dr. Dream and Other Stories by Kevin Ayers from 1974. Another experimental trip. Rock, country, soul, everything fuses here, and it never gets boring. Trip Through Hell from 1969 by the CA Quintet. They started with a couple of singles around 1967 that were quite overlooked. They had a cult following over the decades, and this is one of those albums that needs to be rediscovered. The American Metaphysical Circus, also from 1969, by Joe Bird and the Field Hippies, is quite a find. This is their only album as far as I know. This is electronic music mixed with a pastiche of 20s and 30s music. Sounds strange? Absolutely. But this is an album that you can actually enjoy. Many songs here are surprisingly beautiful, and the entire album is highly hypnotic. I listened to this many years ago and I never forgot it. I think this album ended up being left unjustly forgotten just because it came 2 years after Sgt. Pepper's. And by then, people did not see a lot of interest in it. But I do. It's fascinating that they have this album here. I have a feeling this shop has tons of great stuff. Of course they have a Beatles section, with some interesting titles. Oh, a very rare unofficial Serious Moonlight edition, this one from Switzerland. A serious Bowie fan must get this. I am such a huge Nick Drake fan. Deep Water by Grapefruit from 1969. It's funny, it's on albums like this that one can see the fascination that British youth from the 50s and 60s had with American rock, blues and folk. However, Grapefruit, who got their name from John Lennon, were always a cut above most other bands from that period. I have always loved the cover of Jefferson Airplane's 30 Seconds Over Winterland. It's funny that in 1989, a software company released a screensaver with flying toasters and was sued by the band. You know, I don't buy vinyl for several reasons. However, I totally understand why vinyl has become so popular over the last few years. To me, one of the reasons has to do with the dematerialization of music. Somehow, the music industry tells us that streaming is the best thing there is. All the music you want is played to you out of thin air and you don't have to do anything, just like a buffet. Well, that's such a low-resolution way of looking at our relationship with music, art, and artists. Music is not a buffet. I never liked the idea of streaming. To me, streaming is pretty much background noise that you play when you are cleaning the house, just to keep you company. Yes, we are hearing songs, but we're not listening to anything really. Listening to music means making choices. It means saying, today I want to listen to this band. It also means a conscious action. You get the object, a CD, a vinyl record, or even a cassette, and you start a process. You can even go clean the house while the music plays. There remains a connection, like an invisible cable between you and the music that is playing. At some point, the song or the album will end and you will be faced with another question. What am I going to listen to next? It's like a dialogue between you and the musical landscape. Eventually, the change from song to song or album to album will take you through different paths. In 1 hour, you may be listening to something completely different from what you were listening at the beginning. This means that when you listen to streaming, you are just being entertained. When you listen to physical media, you are entertaining yourself. And that is quite a big difference. Power Park's metal section is not big, but it's well curated. Many classic titles mixed with newer artists. In fact, this is one of the great things about this collection. It's well organized, well curated, and easy to browse. One of the best sections of this collection is the movie soundtracks. Here we have the Aliens soundtrack, a German edition of course. The original pressing of Dr. No is gorgeous. Oh, a beautiful soundtrack by Francis Lai, Le Corps de Mon Ennemi, a great film. But there's plenty more. Total Recall, Cat People, Swedish Heaven and Hell, the classic soundtrack by Piero Umiliani. This is the soundtrack that contains the classic Mana Mana that years later would be immortalized by the Muppets. I'm such a huge fan of Piero Umiliani. He was one of the best. I have said this before, and I will say it again. There are no film music composers like the Italians. There is so much great stuff here. Together Brothers with music by Barry White. This is a gem. Oh my god, here's a German edition of Halloween. I was not expecting to find this today. Another Piero Umiliani gem, Cinque Bambole per la Luna d'Agosto. Gorgeous Giallo soundtrack. Over the Edge. Now, this is a very interesting album. This film is absolutely beautiful. This was Matt Dillon's first film. It contains lots of great rock from the film. The Ramones, Van Halen, Jimi Hendrix, but the film also contains a stunning orchestral soundtrack by Sol Kaplan that I think was never released. That's such a shame. Another gem, this one by Manu Dibango. Completely different from his other work, it shows that Dibango was indeed a great artist. It's been a long time since I've seen so many great soundtracks at the same place. There is a small Morricone section with great stuff. Cosa avete fatto Solange is a classic, and one of his best. There is also a small Bollywood section. But another section that shines is their library music collection. And here is another Piero Umiliani gem, L'Uomo e la Città from 1976. Many of these albums come with descriptions of the mood and the style of each track. This is one such case. Production music, as it is usually called, is music produced specifically to be licensed to movies, advertising, TV, and any other commercial utilization. Some of the best composers also worked for production music labels. Sandro Brugnolini is another big name with thousands of recordings. I think this album is a recent release, but the recordings here date back to 1969 and 1970. DeWolf, KPM, Bruton Music, there are dozens of great labels that worked exclusively on a business-to-business basis. Most of these records were very expensive precisely because they included a license that would allow the buyer to use those tracks on commercial works. They were not available on regular record shops. Here at Power Park, I am finding some great titles. This one is an absolute classic, Rhythm and Strings from 1972, on the German label Selected Sound. These are beautiful recordings. Roland Kovac was an Austrian composer and musician who worked with the best jazz artists. In fact, many of these orchestras employed only the best musicians. But here's a warning. Production music is a whole parallel continent when compared to popular music. These albums are highly collectible and can be very expensive. This means you can break the bank once you enter this journey. Me, I've been here for years. I can't even remember how I got into this. And yes, I have spent buckets of money on it. Horst Jankowski is another great name. This one from 1978 brings a smaller ensemble with a more jazzier feel. There were bigger and smaller production music labels in both America and Europe that produced great stuff. Because we are in Germany, of course we will find more German and European titles. But I must say, so far, I have not found a bad album here. This is indeed a wonderful collection. Under this display, I found some oldies with Bo Diddley, Chuck Berry, Buddy Holly, Bill Haley, and some lesser-known artists that were also great. This compilation, released in 1967, has a great selection of lesser-known artists with some of their best songs. And you can buy this for peanuts. There's also a small selection of German rock from the 60s to the 90s and East European rock from the 60s and 70s. There is a children's section with many good titles, although the desirability of those mostly depends on the language. There is so much great vinyl here at Power Park that I'm afraid I have to break this video in two parts. So this is the end of part 1. On part 2 we'll continue with Brazilian music, soul, funk, disco, jazz and much more. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to my channel. There's more great content coming soon. Thank you.